Alright, so the first thing that we're going to do is this DME hold at echoes intersection. Now, how can you identify echoes? You can see echoes is on Treasure Radial 057 and it's 10 DME from Treasure VOR on the 057 radial. So we're going to depart from Vero Beach, and the first thing we have to do is we have to fly a heading to intercept and join Treasure Radial 057. Once we reach Treasure Radial 057, we will track it until we have 10 DME when we're at echoes. Once we get there, we can see it will be a parallel entry. So we'll fly the outbound for 1 minute, and then we'll make a right turn to intercept the inbound, and we'll intercept the inbound will be, the intercept heading will be inbound plus 45, since this is a left hand turn. So inbound is 237 plus 45 is 282. So we'll turn right to 282 to intercept the inbound. Once we're on the inbound, we'll track it till we get to echoes again, which is 10 DME, and then we'll turn left to the outbound. Alright? Okay, so the first thing we have to do is we check the frequency. Treasure VOR is 117.3, and there we have 117.3. Okay, in your aircraft you would then ID the VOR to make sure it works. You ID it, listen for the Morse code. The third thing we have to do is check that the CDI, I'm going to take this bearing off, check that the CDI is on VOR. If it's not on VOR, then you can change it using the CDI button here, GPS VOR. The fourth thing that we have to do is we have to set the course. Now we said we want to intercept radial 057. So we press course, twist it to 057. And we also have to pick an angle to fly, a heading to fly to intercept 057 radial. So how do we do that? We look at the top of the needle, the arrow's pointing here, and we look at where the needle is, top of the CDI, and then look at the course deviation indicator of the needle, and you pick an intercept angle in between. Right? So we'll pick a heading of, let's be 015, approximately 015. If you're close to the VOR, you can choose a smaller intercept angle. If you're far from the VOR, choose a bigger intercept angle. We're going to choose approximately a 45-degree intercept angle, so 015. Alright? So we'll put the heading bug on 015. There we go. And the fifth thing that we need is we need the DME, because echoes is 10 DME from the VOR. So we can get the DME, go to nearest VOR, and there's the DME for Treasure VOR. If we want, we can also put it up here by hitting Treasure, Direct. This is the direct button, and we can activate. That will put our DME for Treasure up here. Okay. Another way that you can get your DME, you can hit Direct, and you can put in the waypoint, which is TRV, enter, activate. That will also give you your DME from Treasure. Okay. Alright, so let us start up the aircraft. I'll put some airspeed. Usually our speed would be about 100 knots. We're going to have a high airspeed so we can get there faster. The bearing, by the way, is like an RMI, so it points to your fix. This points directly to Treasure. and you can use it if you want. I'm going to take it off, but you can use that if you know how to use it. Alright, so now we're flying 015 to intercept radial 057. How do we know we're intercepting the radial? The needle is going to start centering. It's going to start coming closer to center. You want to start turning the aircraft so that when you roll out, you are flying 057 on the track and the needle is centered. Okay, so if you're close to the VOR, the needle is going to come very quickly. That means you have to turn much faster than if you're further away from the VOR, where it's not as sensitive. Alright, there we can see the needle has started to move. Okay, so needle's coming in and we are going to start turning so that once again the needle will be centered and we'll be tracking 057. So you have to use your judgment and you turn based on how fast or slow the needle is coming in. Alright, so there we go. We're flying 057 and the needle is centered. So what are we waiting for now? We're waiting for 10 DME. When we reach 10 DME, then we'll be at echoes. Once again, I'm just speeding it up, but when it reaches about 9, I'll slow it back down. Let's slow back down to our normal speed, about 98 knots. Okay, so when we reach 10, we're going to start the timer, PFD, clock timer, and we have timers over here. 9.8, 9.9, and there we have 10. So we start the timer. We're flying the outbound for 1 minute. Right? After 1 minute, we will make a right turn to 282. So we don't have to turn right now, but we do have to twist. What do we twist to? Always twist the course to the inbound, which is 237. Okay. So what are we waiting for now? We're waiting for 1 minute. Now something about this simulator, you have two hemispheres of the heading indicator. This is the left, this is the right. If the heading bug is on the left side, then the aircraft will turn left. Alright? If the heading bug is on the right side, it will turn to the right. 282 is on the left side, but we're going to turn it slowly around and then bring it around to 282 on the left side. There we go, 1 minute. Let's start turning to the right. Once again, if you put the heading bug on 282, the aircraft will turn left instead. Okay, so now we're going to intercept on a heading of 282. On the inbound, when do we start the timer? We start the timer when wings are level or needle is centered, whichever happens first. Here, wings will obviously be level before the needle is centered. So I'm going to go back to the timer and 282, reset the timer. Now we're intercepting the inbound. So once again, we'll start turning when the needle is almost centered. There is almost centered. I'm going to start turning to the inbound now, which is 237. Alright, so we're on the inbound. How do we know we reach echoes? When we're 10 DME. 10 DME, we will start turning left to the outbound now. And the time was 57 seconds. So return to the outbound, which is 057. On the simulator, you don't have any wind. So you don't have to do any crosswind correction on the outbound. Returning to the outbound, when do we start the timer on the outbound? We start the timer on the outbound when we're beam the fix. Beam the fix means that we get the to from flip if we're by a VOR. Here, there's no to from flip. So we start the timer when we're wings level. There's 057, wings are level, so we start the timer. Or reset it. Notice on the outbound, the needle is not centered. Our inbound was 57 seconds, and our goal is to get 1 minute on the inbound. So we're 3 seconds too short on the inbound. That means on the outbound this time, I will extend by 3 seconds. So 1 minute plus 3 seconds. 1 minute 3 seconds, turn left to intercept the inbound. Now the aircraft, if your needle starts centering very quickly, you can always increase the angle of bank. Maximum angle of bank in instrument flight is 30 degrees. If the needle is not centering, you can fly an intercept heading to intercept the inbound instead. And that might happen when you have a situation with crosswinds. Alright, so the needle centering, that looks good. When do we start the time on the inbound? Needle centers or wings level, whichever happens first. And here we have wings level, needle center at the same time. So we'll start the timer now. Needle is slightly to the right, so we can go slightly to the right to make it properly centered. And there it is, it's centered now, back to 237. In the aircraft, you'd want to track 237 because we're tracking an actual radial now. So you think of the radial as a line drawn over the ground, an imaginary line, but it's fixed, it does not move. So you use your track. Find what heading gives you a track of 237 and fly that heading. Here, since we have no wind, the track is the same as the heading. And what are we waiting for now? We are waiting for when we reach echoes, which will be 10 DME. You can even see echoes should be up ahead of us right there. 10.1, 10.0, 1 minute and 8 seconds. Turn left to the outbound. And now since the inbound was 1 minute 8 seconds, that's 8 seconds too much. So the outbound last time was 1 minute 3 seconds, the inbound was 1 minute 8 seconds. So next time we fly outbound, we're going to subtract 8 seconds. So 1 minute 3 minus 8 will be 55 seconds.